Welcome to CS Journey, Abhirath here. In this series of videos, we'll be learning about asynchronous programming. We'll start off by having a look at what exactly is asynchronous code and why is it even used in the first place. We'll have a look at a few examples and a few constructs available in JavaScript to write asynchronous code. By the end of the series, I hope that you have an intuitive understanding and feel for asynchronous code, and you can even apply this and you start applying this to your day-to-day problems. If you've been programming for some time now, or even if you've just started programming, you would have noticed one thing. Code gets executed line by line, one after the other. Let me demonstrate. I make a new file and save it as 1.js, console.log, line 1, console.log, line 2, some random code here, let a is equal to 1 plus 2, and console.log a. Let me execute this code, node1.js, and you get line 1, line 2, and a, which has the value 3. It's in the right order. This is normal synchronous code or linear code. Synchronous or linear code. Now what if I do this? Const fs equal to require fs. I'm basically importing a package called file system to create a new file. fs.write file, name of the file example.txt, the text content, this is an example. You may not understand what exactly this is right now, but please ignore it. I'll be explaining you what this is in a bit. Console.log, done writing to file, and we have console.log last line. Let me have another console here, console.log starting file write. I save the file and let me execute the code again, node1.js. You get starting write file, which is line number 3, and you get last line. It jumps over this section. So basically, JavaScript executes this line of code, these two lines of code. JavaScript then comes to line number 5. It thinks to itself, this is a file operation and it's a little time consuming. So what do I do? It outsources this task to its friend. You can call this a friend, a subordinate, or whatever. JavaScript tells it to finish this task and come back to it when it's done. Since JavaScript has handed over this task to somebody else, it proceeds to line number 9. And that is the reason why you see line number 3, that is starting file write, and after that you see last line. When this person is done with the task, it comes back to JavaScript. Hey JavaScript, I'm done with your task. Here's the result. JavaScript gets the result and then proceeds to execute what is inside this. Done writing to file. And that is why it's towards the end of the output. Please ignore all the syntax. It's called a callback. We'll be learning callbacks in depth very soon, but ignore it for now. This is what asynchronous code is. Basically, while this is being done, while this time consuming piece of code is being handled by somebody else, JavaScript can continue executing other lines of code. So essentially, more than one thing is happening at the same time, and that is the crux of asynchronous programming. JavaScript is executing code. It has outsourced some part of code to somebody else, and that friend, when he's done finishing the task, he gets back. So more than one thing is happening at the same time, and that is asynchronous programming. And these concepts, please do remember, they exist in other programming languages as well. The concepts are more or less the same. The syntax, the structure of code, they may vary, but the concepts are all the same. Be it C Sharp, be it Python, be it Lua, whatever the case, the concepts remain the same. Now with the basic concepts out of the way, let's have a look at why is it even used in the first place. Why can't we execute it line by line, just like any other piece of code? And what are the benefits it offers? To better understand and appreciate the use case of asynchronous code, please Google the following term. Latency numbers, every programmer should know. Latency numbers, every programmer should know. You could open the first or second link. Let me open the second link. You don't have to take these numbers to heart, but notice the difference. To get some memory, to get some data from the L1 cache, that is the CPU, it takes 0.5 nanoseconds, and 1 nanosecond is 1 by 1 billionth of a second. 1 by 1 billion into 1 second. It's that fast to get things from the CPU. To get data from RAM, that is your main memory, it is 20 times slower than L2 cache, again CPU, and 200 times slower than L1 cache, again CPU. Notice the speed difference, 200 times slower than that. Then let's come to hard disk, say SSD. It takes 150,000 nanoseconds, or 150,000 nanoseconds. That is how many times slower? 15,000 times slower than accessing data from the RAM. 15,000 times slower. And then finally, coming to the slowest section of all, that is accessing data via the internet. Line number 16. Send a packet of data from California to Netherlands and back to California. Notice the time. 150 million nanoseconds. 150 million nanoseconds. That is around 1000 times slower than accessing data from the SSD. You notice the time difference here. Accessing data from RAM is 200 times slower. Accessing data from an SSD is again around 15,000 times slower than the RAM. And then sending data across the internet, again around 1000 times more time consuming. Basically, your computer, it has a CPU where it can store limited amounts of data. It has its RAM slot where it can store significantly larger amounts of data. It has a file system, your SSDs, your HDDs, your normal hard disk, that is. And then finally the internet. CPU and RAM are pretty fast. Accessing data from these sections of memory, it's pretty fast, it's very efficient, no problem at all. But these two areas, the file system and network calls, that is Wi-Fi, LAN, you're talking to some other website, API calls and all that, these are very time consuming. So CPU is equivalent to accessing data from inside the same house. You should be aware by now that the CPU performs every operation on the computer, be it arithmetic operations, be it some logic, if-else conditions, whatever it is, it's all executed by the CPU. So if data is closer to the CPU, they tend to be processed faster. So think of the CPU like accessing data from inside the very same house. Now RAM is equivalent to accessing data from your neighbor's house. File system is equivalent to traveling across continents to get the data. You're in Asia, you travel all the way to America to get some data. It's that slow. Of course, in computer terms, everything is so fast that even slow is fast to us. It's very relative. And finally, network, that is Wi-Fi or using a LAN cable for somebody else's system, is equivalent to traveling between planets. Remember this concept, getting data via a network or LAN cable is equivalent to getting data after a space mission. It's very time consuming. Let me repeat this again. All this is from the perspective of a computer. In human terms, everything is still fast. Be it file systems, be it network calls, they're still fast for a human being. But when you come to a computer, when you compare the time it takes to perform some operation from RAM and the same operation, same data fetch from a hard disk, there's a lot of difference. And that is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about human terms. I'm talking with respect to computers. So these operations, network and file transfers, file system operations are extremely slow. I don't expect you to blindly believe me. Let's prove the same thing using code. So I have a file called 2.js. Let me just delete all this. Const fs equal to require fs. Again the same thing, fs.write file. I'm writing to a file called example.txt. I'm writing the text. This is an example. Console.time. Let me do this. Let's measure the time it takes to write to a file. You have a function called console.time file write. So it starts the timer when it sees this line, and when the file gets written, when the operation is successfully completed, it comes to this line, right? So let me end it over here. Console.time end file write. So basically this says please start the timer, and this says end the timer. Okay, so we have a file write operation using the file system module or package. Now let me have a for loop. Let I is equal to 0, I less than 1 million. 6 zeros. That is 10 lakhs or 1 million. I plus plus. Let square is equal to I into I. I'm finding the squares of a million numbers, 1 into 1, 100 into 100, 1000 into 1000, and so on, of a million numbers, starting from 0 up to a million. And this is where it starts. Console.time million squares. And where does this code finish? Where does this finish execution after the for loop? Console.time end million squares. Do note the string, it needs to be the same. So it's the same, right? Million squares, million squares. So Node.js can correctly correlate. Okay, I'm talking about this timer. I save the file. Let's execute this piece of code. Node2.js. You notice? To find a million squares, it took 5 milliseconds. And to write this simple piece of text, maybe around 20 characters to a file, it took 13 milliseconds. It took 3 times the time required to find a million squares. One final example before we wrap up this chapter. Fire up Chrome and go to example.com. It's a simple website. We'll be using JavaScript to talk to this website and get the contents of this website. It's basically talking over the internet. And I told you, talking over the internet is one of the most time consuming tasks. So let's simulate that using JavaScript. npm install -g Axios. It's a package that we use to communicate to websites over the internet or APIs over the internet. So please install this before you proceed. npm install -g Axios. I already have it, so I won't be running this command. Let's measure this as well. We import Axios. Const Axios equal to require Axios console.time Axios call axios.get https example.com. Example.com is the same website that I just showed you. We'll be using JavaScript to talk to it and get the contents. Axios.get. Then we have a promise. Don't worry, we'll be learning about all this in the coming videos. Just focus on the concept for now. When JavaScript's friend is done getting the content of this website, console.time end Axios call. We can basically measure how much time it took to get the contents of this website. We're basically comparing the time it takes to write a file, the time it takes to find a million squares, the time it takes to get the contents of a very simple website. It's a very simple site. It's hardly, let me show you the size of the site. Network, let me reload the page. Just 298 bytes transferred for a 1.2 kilobyte website. That's because of compression. My point being the website is very small. And let me demonstrate how much time it takes. Node2.js. To find a million squares, it took 3 milliseconds. To write a file, it took 137 milliseconds this time. See the difference? And finally, to fetch data across the internet using the internet, it took me 1629 milliseconds. These type of operations, that is file operations and network operations, that is network, you communicate via the network. These operations are normally async in nature, asynchronous in nature. So far we've seen what asynchronous code is, and we've also seen that file system operations and network calls are very slow. One last concept that you need to understand is this. Now what if JavaScript were executing this in a serial manner, that is in a synchronous manner, that is one after the other. This, then this, then this, then this, then this. One after the other, as how most code works. For this to get executed, we have to wait for this to finish, right? We have to wait for this to finish, only then we can execute this. For this to get executed, we have to wait for this to finish, and only then can we execute this. You see the problem here? Let me visit a website for that. This looks like a normal web page, but there's a lot happening behind the scenes. Let me inspect. Let me open the network tab. Now I'm just scrolling down. You see what happens? It's making network calls, talking via the internet and getting some data. See? The further I scroll, it gets more and more data. You have a carousel here. It gets more data. My point being, we already know that network calls are very slow, but the website does not seem to hang at all. I'm scrolling down. It seems very continuous even though it's making network calls. And why is that? Let me type something here. Let's say JavaScript. You look at you see this? So many network calls. Why is that happen? I mean, why isn't the website hanging? Network calls take time, and if JavaScript were synchronous code, it would wait for it to finish and then proceed to the next action. Wait for it to finish and then proceed to the next action, right? But see, I'm able to type. I'm typing a lot JavaScript tutorials, and it's making network calls at the same time. It's because of its asynchronous nature. If it weren't asynchronous, the website would literally hang. until the network call gets done with, the website would be unusable. So what happens here? Let me just demonstrate it again. Imagine this is YouTube's code. This is the network call, right? It comes here. It executes this. It then comes here. This piece of code is outsourced. Network call is outsourced to one of its friends. And when the user scrolls or types, JavaScript is free. JavaScript has enough time and resources to perform this. For example, obviously, because the time consuming task is being performed by one of JavaScript's friends. Do note that JavaScript is single threaded. It can do one thing at a time. By outsourcing these time consuming tasks, JavaScript has the time and resources to help the user. So these two time consuming tasks are outsourced, and JavaScript can focus on user interaction, on the other logic that the user might perform. We've now seen the benefits of asynchronous programming. The code obviously is more performant. The second thing being, the main thread, JavaScript, is free to do the important things so that the website does not lag. It does not hang, or it does not wait for the operation to finish. The user can interact with the website in real time. Of course, where there is light, there is a shadow. The disadvantage is being your code becomes complex. Just think about it. If it goes in order, it's very easy to understand, right? One after the other. But now, this might finish before this block of code might finish before this. This friend of JavaScript might come with the result before this. And this friend might have failed to do the task. Due to some issue or something, he might have failed to complete the task. You have to handle that error as well. There's so much confusion and chaos now. And that is something we have to live with. To learn more about the friend of JavaScript that I keep referring to, check out the video in the description below. Technically, it's called the event loop. Event loop. And the video I've linked to below, it's an amazing video where he describes the event loop in a detailed, beginner-friendly and very intuitive way. In the next couple of videos, we'll be learning about the various constructs available in JavaScript to write asynchronous code. We'll be covering callbacks, promises, async await, and a lot more. So stay tuned and see you in the next video.